Welcome to my lecture for Chapter 3. I won't be going through the whole thing because that's your job, but I am going to show you a couple of things that might clarify a little bit about what we're doing and why. As you can see, I have a that I've called Lesson 2. I set the startup properties and I've renamed it. That's what you got to do. I'm warning you. Don't send me anything. I'm not trying to be mean, but you got to get in the habit of not using these default names. Have all the controls renamed appropriately. I have a label here. A label object is simply for output. Excuse me. The user cannot and should not be able to put, unless it's done programmatically by the program, anything in a label that's just for output. Consequently, it's very light, meaning that it doesn't have a lot of properties and methods with it. Not anything like a form or a text box. A text box, on the other hand, is for input, and you can output to it as well, but it's for user input typically. And the button, you already know about button. It's to click and do other things. Typically the default event is to click, so when the user clicks on it, something's supposed to happen. All right, now this particular application I'm doing on the fly, so it's probably not going to make a lot of sense, and that's okay. That's okay, because I'm just showing you some things. So let's look at the properties for the label. The default, of course, you have the name and the text. You have text alignment. Let's go down here, see if we can find that text align. There it is. Drop down, it'll allow you to align text. I think the default's upper left, which I don't like. So or top left. I want to change it to middle left. That way it lines up better with the text box, which is centered. Okay. There's also auto fit or auto size. Excuse me. It's typically set to true. What it means is it will grow and shrink depending on what's in there. Well, how many letters or characters are in there, which is good in some instances. I don't like to use that because of this. If I come in here and set auto size to true, which is the default, you'll have to change it if you don't want to use it. I'm not saying you have to. I don't like it. I'm going to take this text out of here. See what it does? It shrinks to almost nothing, which is okay because you can still see it. But once you click off of it, typically you don't have borders on labels that are associated with controls. Where you try to put it, you say, "Oh, I deleted it," and you try to put another one on there with the same name. It's not going to let you do it. It's going to throw an error, and you're not going to know why. Okay. So if I do a window, the only way to get it is just to do a window, and you can reselect it. Okay. Turn auto size. It's a Boolean value, so I'm going to turn auto size off. Set to false. So it's a Boolean. It's going to be true or false. Now it went back to some normal size. Again, it depends on the application and the context, but in this case, it's just associated with the label. So the text is first name. Always put a colon after these. Just like it's just a holdover from the old days. Okay. Now the text, it has some things to do with it. It has width and text alignment. You really don't have to do much with that unless you want to. Now there are two different ways to lay out a GUI, and you'll sketch them out according to the book. There's the vertical way and the horizontal way. All right. I'm going to do vertical this way. Okay. So I'll have multiple buttons and multiple controls. You can do it vertically, where you have the buttons down here horizontally or vertically up like this. So it just depends on what looks best, what's most functional. Another thing to remember, don't go crazy with background colors and images because they distract from the actual application unless it's something that's required. Here's an example. If you need an image for a logo for a company, it's fine. That kind of thing is fine. And I'm not saying you can't use any, and don't be so bland, but don't go in there and put blood dripping text and black backgrounds and that kind of thing. That's just something. Okay. I want to copy these because I already got some default properties or some properties that apply to multiple controls. So I don't have to keep setting them. So I'm just going to window select all this, and I'm going to copy it and then paste it. And I'm going to move it up. See how the snap helps you center everything? There are also ways to tell Visual Basic if you got a bunch of labels or output labels that you want to be equally divided horizontally and vertically, it will do that for you. But a lot of times you have to actually come in here and divide or use a little bit of math to set this stuff up, because there needs to be a certain number of pixels in between objects, a certain number of pixels between the end of an object and a form up here, over here. Now, I'm just eyeballing this, and you get into the habit where you can actually do that. So let's go ahead and rename these right now before I mess up and do something. You should do the same if you're following along. You don't have to. You can just watch it. Label last name, because that's what this is going to contain. The functionality is not even important for this because I'm showing you some stuff, so it may be kind of a dumb idea. Probably will be. Last name. Yeah. These keys are going crazy, plus I'm a bad. Okay. Let's do the text. See, default name is text box 1. What's the prefix for a text box according to my handout? TXT. For a label, it's LBL. For a button, it's BTN. For a form, it's FRM. So you need to know this stuff. Last name. Okay. Let's do the button. The button is BTN. I'm going to call this clear. I'm going to clear the text out with this button. Okay. Don't forget your access keys. The first one I had %I, which will cause Alt-I to fire the click event. This is not a handicap, but it's a federal regulation for people with, I won't say disabilities, but challenges. Okay, so this will be clear. So I'm going to use C ampersand L, and that puts the underline under the L. So if they hit Alt L, it'll fire the click event for this control. Now, the thing about these, remember, is on this form, once you use like an ampersand L, I can't use it again, because you can, but it will only work on the first one you defined. You can't override the default hotkeys or access keys for Windows itself, like Control P and that kind of. You can set different types of access keys. You don't have to do this. You can use Control. You can set it F5 or F3 or something like that. There are a lot of things you can do. This is a really wonderful application. All right, I'm going to copy this again and paste it again. Oh gosh, look what happened. I swear. Control C. And then I'm going to move it to about right there. Now, I'm eyeballing this. You can always, and you can do all this stuff programmatically too. You can populate new objects on the fly. I could turn everything off on this form and populate new objects. I could do, new labels programmatically and move them around programmatically using what? Well, the coordinates. If you look at this button right here, I'm dragging and I'm just moving stuff. You have a size that you can change, and that's going to have a width and a height, right? So I can make them whatever I want. Now, these are the default sizes, which look pretty good. That's why I don't mess with them too much. But you can certainly do it. And then there's the alignment, location, what's it called? That's the text align. Let me go up the top. Sometimes I forget this stuff. Maybe it's, let's see. Where is it? Location. There it is. So it's 274 pixels in the X direction on the form, and that's starting from 0, 0, which is considered to be right there. So it's down and to the right. You can also change that if you get into API stuff, but we're not doing that. And in the right direction, it's 113 pixels. Now let me go in here and change all the properties I want to change. Now you can set borders on these things too. You can on the label, you can set a border. Default's no border. You can draw a line around it, or you can make it a dropped 3D look. And that's right where that is, right here, border style. You can set the color of the border. And in a minute, we're going to use a fixed 3D for our output label, which is kind of what they expect to see. I'm going to call this label earning or pay. Let's do pay. This person's pay. There we go. And this will be text pay. Oh, I got to change the name. The text property. Remember now, the name is the text property. A lot of you will make that mistake. Totally different. The name of the object's a different property than the text. This will be weekly pay. Okay. All right. This is going to be, just put tax pay. It's a little easier. I want to keep this as short as I can. And then this is going to be tax tax or deductions. Let's do deductions. Okay. And this will be, do I have an A? I don't. All right, so tax is what I'm going to, ampersand AX. So Alt A will fire the click event for this button. All right, we got everything named, I think. Let's just run it. We don't have any events, so I got to put an exit button on here too. So let's run it and see if we get any issues here. And grab some coffee while I'm... Come on, stop. Well, if your instructor had any sense, he'd turn that off. What's going on with our tab order? That's not really a good thing. See, you know, you can press the tab key, and these text boxes get focused. And when they get focused, you'll see a cursor in there, and that means that the user, it will accept input. The way I want this to happen is I want it to go from here to here to here, and then up to here to here to here, so far, okay? So let's go up here and stop this, and I'm going to show you how to set the tab order. All right. So if you click the form and you go up here to view, you can come down here to tab order, and it will show you numbers in which the tab will go from one control to the next, because you know you can tab between controls, right, to set focus. You can do that on web forms too. A label cannot, since you can't type into a label, it's just output only, write only. It also can't accept focus, so it can't have anything other than a tab order. So this is set to 0. That's the first thing it's going to get focused when this form loads. Since it can't accept focus because it's a label control, it will throw focus to the next control in the tab order. So this is 0. The next control in the tab order is 1. There is no 2, 3, 4. So there's some things out of whack here. It's because you're copying and pasting, doing all kind of things. Excuse me. You can never really consider this until you get the form designed. So you turn on your tab order, and you can set this to 0, 1, which means this will get the focus. This should be 2. All right. As soon as this loses focus, that gets the focus. It can't have focus, so it throws it over to the next one. Well, this should be next in line numerical order, so it should be 3, and it tried to do it for me, and I couldn't see it. There are other ways. The book shows you another way to do this. I like doing it this way. All right, this should be 4, and it did it, and I couldn't see it from my cursor. It's pretty good about figuring out what you're doing. This should be 5. It should go to 5. It did. 6. This should be 7. It should go to 7. If it doesn't, I have to click it until it does. It'll cycle through all the controls. This should be 8, and it is. All right, so let's save it. All right, now we turn the tab order off for just a minute. View, tab order. Okay, so what I'm going to do, what this tax button is going to do, is it's going to grab this weekly pay, convert it to a number, multiply it by a tax rate, and it needs to output it. Okay, so the user can, or the user of the application can see how much tax this person's got to pay. So I'm going to copy all of these because I need an exit button. Control C, I'll paste it, and I'm going to move it. So it puts the paste wherever you want it to, so you have to be careful. Make sure it's still, see, don't do what I just did with a touchpad. Let me do that again. I hit the wrong key. You have to make sure they're still selected, or it'll unselect them and put them wherever it wants. So Control C, and you hold your key down. And I'm going to drag these down a little bit further because I want some distance between these and the exit button. Okay, this is I'm going to call this label tax. I'll have to call the other one something else. Label tax. Oh, we call this deductions. Yeah. And this will be deductions with a colon. Okay. And then we have, this is going to be, I'm just going to call this text payroll tax. TXT is the prefix for a text box. Who else in the heck? I don't know. It's early Friday. Let's see. Nothing in there. Okay, let's save this puppy. I've got so many things. Once we get all these controls on here and get the tab order out, we're going to lock these controls down, because a lot of times you can spend a lot of time, especially if you're using the coordinates to move this stuff around, because sometimes you have to do the math to do that. It's bad when you spend an hour doing that and you're really tired and you accidentally do a multiple window select, move stuff around off of where it is, and then you go back and do it again. So we're going, if you lock the controls on the window or on the form, it won't let you move them around. Okay, so that's good. All right, so all we got left is our exit button, and you know this will be BTN exit. And then we'll use our alt key combination here. This will be E ampersand X, because that's what it typically is on most things. And now we're ready to look order again. Where's my tab? What? Oh, I guess I have to select the form. That must be what it is. View tab order. See, it's context driven. So I got 0, 1, that'll put the focus there. 2, 3, that'll put the focus there. 4, 5, that'll put the focus there. This needs to be, that's fine. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Neither, well, this needs to be a label. That's my fault. Let me delete that, because it's going to be an output object. I shouldn't have copied that. It won't let me do it till I change the, turn it off. Okay, my fault. You should never use a text box for output. It's just not, you can do it, you can disable it and use it as a label, but then it's got so much overhead, it's just better to use a label. So I'm going to copy this one and paste it right here. Hopefully, move it. I'll do that. Now, yeah, I guess I'll get pretty good at this one day using these. All right, now this is where output's going to be. The name, change it to label payroll tax. Label payroll tax. That's P-A-Y. Oh my gosh. It's Friday morning, not enough coffee. We don't want anything in there because we're going to do that programmatically. Okay, so I need to come up here and change the border, because if the user needs to expect there's going to be some kind of output there on a border, or on a label, let's change the border style to 3D. That's just something you'll learn to do. If it didn't matter, if it was just an output kind of a thing, just for a control, then it wouldn't matter. All right, let's save it. Let's go back to select the form, go to View, Tab Order again. So I got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now let me show you what about this. Remember, I said that labels, and these two are labels, cannot accept focus because they're output only. So when the program tries to set focus on a label, it will throw the focus to the next control in the tab order, right? That's why 0 tries to get focus, it can't get it, throws it to 1. 2 can't get it, so it throws it to 3. So that's what we want, because it's going to just jump over here. 4 can't get it, throws it to 5. 6, 7, 8. 9 can't get it, throws it to 10, which can't get it, which throws it to 11. So actually, here's the way it's going to work out. It's going to go tab, 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 and it's going to start back over again because these labels can't get focus. All right, let's save it. Turn the tab order off. Controls. You right-click on the form, go to lock controls. All right. Now, hopefully, we can't move these things around. Now, we haven't put any functionality in here yet, so we're going to do that in just a moment. Let's go ahead and run it. I'll be able to tell it to not do that. Okay. Notice that the focus is here, which is what we want. Now, that's just when it starts up. After you start doing things, the focus will be on whatever you click. And you may want to set focus programmatically back to this, and we'll do that in a minute. So let's press our tab key and see where we go from here. That's exactly what whoop. What happened here? Why did it do that? I got to look at that and see what's going on. Oh, I hit caps lock. I'm sorry. There it goes. I hit the caps lock key. Okay, so that's what we want, right? That's what the user's kind of going to expect. Notice none of these get focus because they can't accept focus. All right, first thing let's do is code the easiest one with stop debugging, which is going to be what? The exit. So I need to set a click event handler. I need to create one for this exit button so I can put it in there. I can double click. The click event is the default event for a button. Lightning bolt shows you all your events that are possible for a control. And I'm just going to double click on it. It does the same thing. I could come over here that way. So what is the code to close an application? It's me, which points to the latest instance, the current instance of this application, dot. Now the dot operator pops up IntelliSense. We want to exit. It's probably C for close. If you don't know, you can just type C and it'll show up. And when you hit enter, VV is nice enough to put your opening and closing argument parens in there. It just so happens close doesn't take an argument in this case. But you got to have the argument list because that's a method, right, of the object me. So it's an intrinsic method. All right, so let's save it, run it, and see if we can exit it. All right, I'm going to go, let's use the tab key, and then we're going to use the enter key, or Alt X. You can also use the enter, but Alt X, Alt X, Alt X. It fired it, okay, because we had that access key set to that. Okay, we covered that. We locked the controls. We did the tab order. I'm flipping through the book here and trying to see what I want to. All right, I want to go ahead and put some code in here that'll do something. All right, let's go ahead and set a text property for this. A default text property. Let's put in there, put my first name, put my last name. Obviously, that would be coming from a database, or got 2 M's naturally. My weekly pay, I'm going to put $10. That's about what it seems like after I pay all my bills. I'll put $1,500. This would be weekly pay, so I'd probably just put $1,000. That's before taxes, obviously. I'm not saying that's what I make, but I wish I had $1,000. Okay, so that's what's going to show up when it runs. That's because I did it at design time. Now display, I want that to change it to something else. Now, obviously, we'd be displaying something from a database, walking through records and looking at all the employees, right? We're not into that stage yet, a little advanced, but I'm going to put a click. Right, see it created that. Let me fix this. And I keep hitting the caps lock. What you can do is you can set the text property to whatever string you want, because what's the default data type of a text property? It's a string, it's string type. So let's start off with the first text box. Notice it sees all the text boxes on there, so I'm going to select text first name. You could type it out. And I'm going to have to set the text property. So to do that, I'll use my dot operator. Text is a property of that text box object, so I can just type T. It takes me down into the T's, and there's text. We're going to have to assign that into this text property. So I'm going to use a string literal called John. That's going to, notice it did the opening and closing for me. And txt last name, whoops. I don't know if I can stand this thing through the entire semester. Text, and I bet you can guess what's going in there. Doe. All right. Oh, I misspelled that. See the little squiggly line? Okay. And then text. These keys are just driving me nuts. Text, sticking and putting double characters in. All right, let's try this again. Wow. Let's try tab again. There we go. Text. Nah. X and A just go crazy. Pay. Dot what? Text. That's the property into which we're going to put some dynamically while this program's running. I'm going to put some string literals in there. So let me put 2,500. This guy makes more than me. Okay, let's save that. And let's press F5, and here comes avast. At least it's trying anyway. All right, so there's form. Notice that the focus is set where it's supposed to be according to the tab order. Now, once we get out of the default loading of this form, which sets the focus where the tab order is, we're going to have to reset that programmatically back up here at some point. Okay, so if I go to display, it's going to put John Doe and 2,500 in here. Watch. See? Okay, so now clear doesn't do anything, exit does, so I'm going to click that. All right, let's go ahead and let's set up an event for clear, the clear button. So I'm going to double click on that, and there's my event handler for clear. I want to set all of these to empty, or set the text property to nothing, no string, empty string. So let me do this. Whoops. I'm going to copy and paste this. Now, obviously, for those of you who've had a language before, hopefully you've had the logic class, I can do that by simply setting this to an empty string. The problem with that is that when another developer's looking, and yourself included if you've been away from it for a while, is looking at that, it's kind of hard to tell if that's a nothing in there, no space, or space. So there's a better way to do it. It's a little bit more typing, but it's just, you're going to set this text property to a string of some sort, right? So we're going to use this default string object, which has a method called empty. So it's string dot empty, okay? And we're going to do that for all these. That's actually a property, I guess, because it doesn't have a dot empty. Yeah, it's a property. And this one's a string dot empty. Okay, let's run that. Let's save it. Okay, save it and run it, not run it and save it. Here we go. Clear. Okay, display. Clear. See, it's clearing them out. Setting that text property to an empty string, which is good. All right. Now we need to go ahead and add our tax calculation. And let's see what we get. Now, in order to do that, now we get to chapter 3, which is next. Things are going to change, but they're using an old syntax of like VB1. It went all the way up to 6 point something before it became VB.NET. So they've taken a legacy language and changed it into an object-oriented language, which is good, but there are issues. This val method that's on page 99, it takes the text property and converts it to a number. And that way you can do some math on it, then it converts it back to a string and sticks it in the text property of the object that you want to load up with it. There's a problem with this. There's a couple things going on. Val's not supported, I don't think, in the new object-oriented world. So they're going to change your world over when we get into the next chapter. Because in the object-oriented world, you have to explicitly define objects. You have to explicitly convert. And we're going to set our compiler up to do that. Now in C#, it's automatically that way. They had to do it this way because there's so much old code out there. They can't break gazillions of lines of code just so they can have a new version of VB. It wouldn't make any sense. It's not feasible. Be aware of that when we get into chapter 3, what you're doing right here is going to kind of go away. Now you're not doing too much coding. So, all right, what are we going to do? Well, let's go ahead and set up our tax event handler. So I'm going to double click on it. And it's going to take, let's see, is it label, payroll, tax? And what property we're going to store it in? Text property. And it's of type string, right? Now, that's another thing. After I convert it to a number, VB is implicit